Hey viewers, you're watching the Savera and I'm Vidhi Joshi. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has released the revised Motor Vehicle Aggregator Guidelines 2025, introducing significant changes to the fare structure and operational framework for cab aggregators such as Ola, Uber and Rapido. Under the new rules, these companies are now allowed to charge up to twice the base fare during peak hours and adverse weather conditions. This marks an increase from the previous dynamic pricing cap, which allowed fares only up to 1.5 times the base fare. Conversely, during non-peak or low-demand hours, aggregators are permitted to offer fares as low as 50% below the base fare, giving them greater flexibility to adjust pricing based on demand. The base fare itself will be determined and notified by the respective state governments for different classes and categories of vehicles. The fare structure must be designed to cover a minimum distance of 3 kilometers. A provision introduced to compensate for dead mileage, the distance and fuel used by drivers to reach the passenger's pickup point. However, passengers will not be charged separately for this dead mileage until the total ride distance is less than 3 kilometers. In all other cases, the fare will only be calculated from the pickup location to the drop-off point. To ensure fairness and transparency in the revenue sharing model, the guidelines stipulate that drivers who own their vehicles and are affiliated with an aggregator must receive at least 80% of the fare collected from a ride. The remaining 20% may be retained by the aggregator. In cases where the vehicle is owned by the aggregator but operated by a driver, the driver must receive a minimum of 60% of the total fare. Payments to drivers can be settled on a daily, weekly or fortnightly basis, depending on mutual agreement. The new guidelines also outline revised rules for cancellations. If a driver cancels a ride after accepting it without a valid reason, a penalty of 10% of the fare, capped at a maximum of ₹100, will be charged to the driver. The same penalty structure applies to passengers who cancel rides without a valid reason, provided such terms are clearly specified on the aggregator's app or website. In a move aimed at strengthening passenger safety, the government has mandated that aggregators provide a minimum insurance coverage of ₹5 lakh for every passenger. This provision is a part of a broader effort to improve user safety while also supporting the welfare of the drivers and ensuring smooth business operations. The revised guidelines form part of an updated regulatory framework under the Motor Vehicles Act 2019. The central government has urged all the state governments to adopt these guidelines within 3 months. While the centre has laid down the core framework, individual states retain the authority to issue license and regulate aggregators further, allowing them to include additional provisions as needed. With the introduction of the Motor Vehicles Aggregator Guidelines 2025, the government aims to implement a light touch but effective regulatory systems that balances the interest of passengers, drivers and service providers. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment and subscribe to the channel.